I had planned to cover three topics. I think I may not have the time to go through all three of them, but I guess the third topic will be about, I guess, the topic of discussion, or one of the topics for discussion. So let's see how I go through the first two, which is an introduction to the Scientific Advice Working Party and its main tasks, and then how it actually interacts now with the working parties and other committees also of the agency. So the Scientific Advice Working Party is actually it's the only working party, to the best of my understanding, that's actually foreseen in the legislation so far. It's a standing working party of the Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use, the CHMP. There is a Scientific Advice Working Party in the vet area as well. And its sole remit is that's to provide scientific advice. Although we call it a working party, it functions a bit like a committee. So it actually meets on a monthly basis, 11 times a year, because there's a month of holidays, as we all know, every year. And it's a relatively large working party, consists of 72 members and alternates altogether. They are nominated based on expertise needs of the working party and includes representatives from other EMA committees like the Pediatric Committee, the Committee for Orphan Medicinal Products, the Committee of Advanced Therapies, and also the Pharmacovigilance and Risk Assessment Committee. It's not the representation is not based on kind of national. There's no national representation in the committee. And to exemplify this, I show here, the different EU countries or EEA actually countries and their representation in the working party. Most notably, I would say the Balkan and like a lot of the Eastern European countries are actually not represented. Of course, the nomination is open to all EU member states, but then also, we ask for, depending on the types of requests that we see and the types of expertise that we need, we ask for people to be nominated that have specific expertise in therapeutic areas, in other disciplines, methodology, quality, non-clinical, and so on and so forth. Now, the working party has three main tasks. I guess the majority is the provision of scientific advice and protocol assistance. We're handling something around 70 requests per month. A second important task is the provision of qualification advice or qualification opinion. This is a much lower volume procedure. We have around 3 submissions or procedures starting every month, but these are procedures that take longer, so they come on the agenda, multiple times. And we have around 5 topics of this type every month. Finally, and in more recent years, the SAWP has been also tasked with the assessment of prime eligibility requests, and they form a draft recommendation to the CAT, if we're talking about an ATMP, or the CHMP as to whether a product that comes for a prime eligibility should be granted the designation or not. And in the next slides, I'm going to explain a little bit. I understand that the majority of you already know what all of this means, and what these tasks are. But let me, just for the occasional people who may not be so familiar. So what is scientific advice? It's a regulatory advice on to drug developers on how to develop the drugs in the most optimal way in order to support eventually the positive benefit risk and the authorization of the medicine. It covers any aspect of drug development, from the quality to the non-clinical studies and all the way to the clinical studies. It can include questions on methodology, and it could also include questions on regulatory strategy as to the type of marketing authorization what one might be looking to achieve. Ways to develop special types of products like generics, hybrids, biosimilars, and it could also extend into the post-authorization life cycle, not just the initial authorization of the drug, but also in the post-authorization space. Scientific advice is prospective in nature, so the focus is on the development strategy, the development plan. It's not a pre-assessment of the data, and it's delivered in the form of specific questions that need to be answered. Protocol assistance is very similar to scientific advice. It's just scientific advice on orphan medicinal products or products intended for rare diseases. And in addition to some fee reductions or exemptions that it implies. It can also include questions on what we call significant benefits. So in order for an orphan product to be authorized, it needs to not just show a positive benefit risk, but it also needs to show that it adds something to the existing therapeutic landscape in that disease. So that we call significant benefit. And of course, companies need to have a plan as to how to demonstrate, how to show the significant benefit at the time of authorization, and they can come with questions on this plan to us. Qualification of novel methodologies is a very different animal. It's no longer product work. It's about developing methodologies that can be used in drug development. And the types of methodologies are quite diverse. It started initially as a qualification of biomarkers that you can use to enrich your patient population or predict toxicity, but then quickly moved to surrogate clinical endpoints, also clinical outcome assessments like patient and caregiver reported outcomes, and in more recent years, patient and disease registries, so even data sets that are being qualified. And since a couple of years, we're also discussing a lot of digital endpoints and use of artificial intelligence and machine learning in different types of methodologies like this. And qualification is really regulatory acceptability of a method to be used in drug development. That's what it means, qualification. And it also differs from scientific advice because companies can come during the course of designing how to qualify their methodology, so we give them advice, or they can actually eventually come with the data to support such qualification and actually get an opinion, as we say, qualification opinion, which means that this methodology can then be used without needing to be validated any longer. Finally, PRIME designation. So the PRIME scheme is a scheme that is intended for medicines that address unmet medical needs and that hold promise to provide a major public health interest, so effectively game changers. It's a designation that can be requested. It's being assessed initially by the SAWP. The SAWP formulates a recommendation towards the CAT or the CHMP, depending on the nature of the product. But eventually, it's the CHMP that decides whether the designation should be given or not. Once given the designation, it implies that there's an enhanced regulatory and scientific support. So there's an early rapporteur appointment, and also there's support through primarily scientific advice. And of course, the plan is to optimize the development in order for these medicines that hold, promise to effectively come to the market as quickly as possible, or at least that's the hope. Now, switching gears a bit to discuss the SAWP interactions with other working parties. So, as I mentioned before, scientific advice can include questions on every single aspect or any single aspect of drug development, and therefore it's often important or necessary for other, not just the working parties, but even committees of the EMA to be involved and to provide peer review support in formulating the advice. Now, the level of engagement of each committee or working party differs depending on the type of request, the types of questions. And now, because the working party, the scientific advice working party, has primarily a clinical and methodological focus and expertise, any questions on pharmaceutical quality are actually delegated to the biologics working party or the quality working party, the core team of the quality working party. So these are always discussed at these working parties. Similarly, for matters of significant benefit, the answers are actually formulated by the Committee of Orphan Medicinal Products, the COMP. Okay, so the SAWP doesn't discuss this. Then there's a number of other things where other committees and, not working parties, but operational expert groups are systematically being involved. So the PDCO for pediatric aspects, the CAT for ATMPs, the PRAC for post-authorization safety studies, and also statistical questions are referred to the biostatistics operational group, and modeling and simulation questions to the modeling and simulation operational expert group of the methodology working party. Now, in other cases, the involvement is more ad hoc. So pediatric developments where there is no already agreed pediatric investigation plan can be referred to the PDCO, but not always. That's because we actually have quite a few requests that pertain to pediatric aspects every month, and it's a lot to refer all of this to the PDCO. So this is a very intense interaction between the two bodies that we're always trying to optimize. And so currently we only ad hoc refer such cases. Then non-clinical questions may occasionally be referred to the non-clinical working party. Pharmacokinetics questions occasionally to the, well, it used to be the PK working party. I guess now it's the methodology directly. Okay, methodology working party. And then other more kind of specific and rarer, questions are referred to even groups that are actually not no longer working parties or operational expert groups, but other types of groups. And I think I've exhausted my 10 minutes, so I'm actually not going to go through the last part, which is patient and healthcare professional involvement in scientific advice. This is well established, but we can discuss this, in the discussion afterwards. Thank you very much.